Hello. This video is going to show you how to sign up and set up and use BoardBooster to schedule your pens on Pinterest. Now, there should be a link somewhere in the vicinity of this video or an email I sent you or something like that. Look in the comments or blog post or wherever you're watching this video, and that should take you to BoardBooster. You should see a screen that is like this, telling you that you can sign up for a free trial. You get 500 pins. That is the monthly amount for about 1 month on their cheapest plan, which is just $5. So I'm going to show you the best way to schedule out these 500 pins and how to actually set up and use BoardBooster, because sometimes it's a little confusing. So I've already gone over here and entered in all my information to create a new account. So I'm going to go ahead and do that. Sign up here. Now there's not a time limit on these 500 pins. Well, I guess there is, but I have actually done a whole month through the 500 pins. So I don't know. They might have just started this 10 days. All right, so you have 10 days to try out everything, and you can publish up to 500 pins for free. So this means in those 10 days, you can do 50 pins per day, which is pretty solid. So go ahead, and now we are all signed in to BoardBooster, and we can start checking everything out. Now, the first thing you're gonna do is go over here where it says pinning tools, and let's go ahead and look at the scheduler first. This is the basic, easy way to get started with BoardBooster. So this is telling us that we don't have any boards set up yet, and it also tells us how to actually set up these boards. So I'm gonna go ahead, click Add Board, and this is where you need to enter your email and password to enter your Pinterest account. I'm gonna do that real quick. This will log you into your Pinterest account, and it will start populating all the boards that you have into BoardBooster. It does take a minute, so I'm probably going to cut all the time I waited out of the video, so we'll just wait here until it's done. Alright, so now that it is done connecting everything, we can now choose which of our boards we want to add to the scheduler. Now, the way I have mine set up, I only really want to do a few. So let me pick some of these. Now, if you don't see the boards, all your boards, which right now you would because this is your first time connecting, but later on, if you create more boards and you don't see them, you can press this refresh boards button there to refresh all the boards and get your new ones that you've created. Right now, I'm going to press continue because I decided that's the boards I want to schedule to. So you can choose to do multiple pins per day on each board, or 1 or less pins per day on each board. Looking at multiple here, you can set the time space in which you want these many pins to pin throughout the day. So right now it's set at 3, and I can spread choose to spread the time between whatever hours I want for these. I usually have it spread out from like 12 a.m. to 11:59 p.m. just so I can say, hey, spread this out all day. And I think that's a good way to start out until later on, which I will show you how you can see where it shows you the times when you BoardBooster pins for you that your stuff gets the most repins. So for now, I'm gonna go ahead, type in 12 here, and I want 59. So let's say I only want to do 2 pins per day on each of these. Going to submit. And then we'll run through and get all this set up for you. Okay, that took a while, so I went ahead and jumped ahead here, but don't be alarmed if it takes a while for all your boards to be set up. Okay, so now it is showing us this pin scheduling little kind of overview. Yay, they've just added 3 empty secret boards to your account. What does that mean? Well, I will show you in just a minute. So if I hop over here to my Pinterest account and click boards, we will see at the bottom in our secret boards section that there are now these boards called clothing for women with a little dash in front of it. Here's my hair and beauty board and makeup tips here. So when I want BoardBooster to pin something out to one of these boards, I can just go to Pinterest, find something interesting. Look at all these cute makeup tips. All right, I think I put, all right, here we go. So here are our secret boards at the top, and it puts them all here at the top, which is why I say be careful which boards you actually set up in BoardBooster, because if you've got all of them there, you'll have all your secret boards on top, and sometimes that can be annoying if you have like a million boards like I do on other accounts. So I'm gonna save this in clothing for women. I'm gonna save some more. Yay! Then we'll put this in here in beauty. Makeup tips. All right. So I'm gonna go back to my profile now. Click boards, and you can see that these pins that I added were now in there. So what's gonna happen now is BoardBooster. Let me refresh and see if there's, well, I guess there wouldn't be. Okay, so what's gonna happen now is BoardBooster will be able to pin those out into each one of these boards. And you can see if I click on these, it will tell me how many repins it will make per day and the timing. And the status here will tell you if there's pins inside the secret boards for you to pin, or if the you've run out of pins that you can add in there. So I want to talk about board or pin sourcing here for a bit. If I click on add, I can choose to monitor a single board, or I can search. So what we're going to do is search. And what this does is it will find popular pins for you, which is pretty awesome. So I can type in some keywords here. And that is what it'll kind of be like when you're searching in Pinterest search and you type in one of these, it will look for pins that match those keywords. You can also add board name filters here in case you're getting a lot of different pins that have nothing to do with your keywords. So one thing to kind of filter that out is to choose from boards that only use the keywords that you want. I'm not going to do that for this example just because I'm not. Now you can also choose to skip or include promoted pins. You can filter by a domain. So if you wanted to skip a specific domain, as you can see here, here's some examples like tumblr.com. You could type that in, or you could choose to only include pins from certain domains, which you can see as an example here is that you could only have it pins from your domain, which means that you could target your pins that are pinned by other people that got a lot of repins, or even really maybe not a lot, but I'll get into that in a second. So you could do this so anytime one of your pins comes up, even if somebody else created it, if they got more than a certain number of repins, which is down here, then you could pin that to your board and it will repin from that and kind of boost that other pin, and that makes that pin boost in search, and everybody wins because now you're getting more repins and traffic eventually. So that's one pro tip for using board sourcing or pin sourcing. All right, so you can also choose to skip or include video pins, automated GIFs, e-commerce websites, and different aspect ratio of pins. So I usually like to do tall only because that's the kind of pins that do well on Pinterest, but square sometimes does pretty well. I've had some Instagram posts that do well on Pinterest, so you can decide which one you want to pick there, or you can just do all. I don't really suggest all because then you'll get some teeny tiny images sometimes that aren't great for Pinterest. Now here at the direct repin section, this is repins that are made directly from that certain pin, not the total overall number of repins that used to show on Pinterest, but just direct repins. So if a pin didn't get any repins, BoardBooster will ignore it, but if it does get repins, then BoardBooster will add it. And you can change this. It's best to do kind of a low number because the direct repins aren't as big as you think they are, but you can kind of choose a higher one if you want to look for pins that are super popular and have lots of direct repins. But your sourcing agent might not pick up a lot of pins. Is the difference. Next is the status, which you can have it working, which means that it's searching out pins for you and adding them every day, or you can pause it. So sometimes maybe you've got enough pins searched out for you that you want to just pause it for a bit so it's not counting against your total monthly pins anymore until you're ready to start it up again. This is how many pins it will search out per day. It's 3 by default, but you can change it to 2 or 1 or 50 if you want. Don't recommend that unless you're ready to pay lots of money, because each time it adds to this, it does count against your monthly total pins. The next one is approved pins for publishing. I do recommend this, especially for this general search agent, because sometimes you might get pins. Well, you're definitely going to get pins that probably don't make sense to be on your board. So if you have it on automatically, it'll automatically publish out those pins, and then you'll have pins in your boards that have nothing to do with whatever your board is about. So if my board is about clothing, I might end up with some makeup pins in there, and I don't want that. So I always use manually, because this way it will ask me before it pins anything. Oh, forgot to take that off. All right. So that is telling me that it will find 3 repins per day from this, and then it will actually show me down here when there's pins for me to publish in that board. I actually don't have any sourced pins right now, so I can't really show you how that works, but just know that you need to come back to this page to accept any pins that it does find for you. Okay, so the next thing that we are going to look at is campaigns. I'm going to show you how to set up a scheduled campaign because I think this is really cool for scheduling to your group boards. I don't have group boards on this account, so I'm going to schedule to my regular boards, but it works the same way. You just pick group boards instead. So first you have to give it a name. I will call this makeup. So we'll do the makeup thing. So let's see, add repins. We're just adding all the boards where we want pins to go out to. I have 3 that could kind of fit anything. Oh, let me change up the times here too. Totally forgot that. This is another thing where it'll be useful to see later on how what times are best for your pins to go out. So I did 1 pin per day, as you can see here. It'll take a couple minutes to set all this up. Once it's actually set up, you will see how it has the campaign here that you just created. You can clone it or edit it. I'm gonna go ahead and edit it. And you can see if we click advanced settings down here, you can change the source board if you want. It makes a secret board for you, but you can pick any one of these boards. So one thing I like to do is set up a campaign like this and then have it source from another board. On my blog, for example, I have the board that's just my blog post, so I'll have it source from that board out into any relevant group boards that are relevant to my niche. Then you can also create more campaigns to fit different types of blog posts that you have into more niche groups. So if you need to add a board to this, you can use the add repin button. Again, there was the refresh boards there in case you add a new board and you want to pin from one of those. And you can change the time here by clicking on these gear icons. You can pause it or keep it working. You can change how many max repins it creates per day. Or you can decide to keep or delete your source pins. I would keep them on, for most of my things I keep them, especially if I'm doing it from a live board that's not a secret board, but you can also choose to delete them once they've gone through the process of finishing all these pins. Now I noticed that I totally forgot one thing, the campaign day number. I usually like to do like 4 or 5 days in between a pin. So I'm gonna go ahead and add those. So I could do something like that, for example. And then save, and it will update. Now, once you have the campaigns here that have actually run something, which I will go to my currently active account, and you can see here where I have, it tells me how many pins have gone through all the boards, how many pins are in process, and which ones are waiting, which you can click on these and see how many have finished and how many are currently pinning. It doesn't show you which ones are waiting though, as you can see, because I clicked on it and it didn't show me anything. But yeah, so this one, actually, let's take a look at my blogging entrepreneurs one. You can see I have it schedule out to all the relevant boards, and then all I would have to do is stick a pin in blogging as a business. All right, so that is how to create your scheduled campaign, but there's also, there's also random campaigns, which they take a board and pins it out to multiple boards, which I have a random campaign right here. You can see it's sourcing from this board that I've created, and I'm having it pin out to different group boards every day. I've also set it to it never repins the same pin to the same board within 100 days. So once it's pinned, it won't pin it again until day 101. And I've also set up the max number of reposts across all boards, which means no one pin is being posted on the same day. So everything I pin out will be different instead of like 5 of one pin going out to 5 different group boards. It's 5 different pins going out to 5 different group boards. You can also select which days you want it to pin and your time, aspect ratio, and all that. Now to get this 100 pin setting there, you do have to change this to the custom settings there. So there's also the pin sourcing campaigns, which I use that here on group boards that I know that I can trust to have the right kinds of pins in them. So it will always schedule out from these boards every day to the board of my choice right here. All right, so let's go look at one last thing in the reports. I've been talking about this the whole time. Best time to pin. This will take all the pins that BoardBooster has posted and it tracks them to see when you get repins. So if you hover over it, you can see, well, you don't even have to hover, but you can see the time 12 a.m. and between 10:30 and 11:30. That's 11:30 to 12:30. So really my absolute best time is between 10:30 and 12:30, there around the midnight time, you see. So you can also compare by weekends, so you can see on weekdays. On Saturdays, I clearly have a better time here, the 4:30 to 5:30 a.m. time, but as it tells you up here, it's only really accurate once you've got 100 pins that have pinned out in a time frame. So this one only has 55. So I might not want to start scheduling and saying, hey, between 4:30 and 5:30, I want to schedule out pins there. Not quite yet, until I get over 100 in that area, and then I might want to start scheduling for that. You can see here, when you hover, this has 600 pins added, and this one is 187 pins. So it's pretty safe to say that 10:30 and 11:30 I want to pin out stuff, and 11:30 to 12:30 I want to set pins to be pinned out. Otherwise, there are all these other times in between that you can look at and see how your pins are performing. So that way, when you're going back through and creating one of these campaigns or doing your scheduler, here you can say, okay, I know I definitely want to pin between 11 p.m. and say 12 p.m. So, or 12 a.m. Sorry. All right, so I could do that and then save it and change it like that, but I'm not going to save it since this is a separate account. So I don't know really what works best for this audience yet. Okay, the last thing I want to talk about is looping. This is pretty cool. Actually, let me go back on my other account. Looping, which I have set up some here. What looping does is it takes a board and it repins your old pins, so you don't have to worry about going back and repinning them yourself. So it will actually go in and repin, and then after a certain number of days, which you can set right here, run deduplication, and you have to have it turned on, of course. If you have it disabled, none of that will be there. So enable that. It might be enabled by default, I can't remember. But anyway, you can decide how many days, if you have a pin that has 2 or whatever number of repins. These are the direct repins, not the overall. The direct means that they saw your pin, your exact pin, and then they repinned it. Indirect repins are kind of like just the whole everyone on Pinterest kind of number, but these are just the ones that are directly connected to whatever pin you've got set up. So if you've got a pin that does have some of those repins, you don't want it to be deleted, which is what this will do. So you can have this protection on, make sure it says enabled, and if it's got repins, it will keep that pin instead of deleting it. You can also do that same thing with pins with comments, though I think comments are kind of phasing out in Pinterest. Like, they've kind of done a lot to hide them, and they might even get rid of them eventually, so who knows. Now the rest of these options are pretty much like the scheduling options. You know, you've got your time settings, you can pin multiple or 1 or less per day, set how many you want, spread the time out, or spread your pins out between your certain times, what days to pin. You can choose to set these chronological, oldest to newest, or newest to oldest, which means it will pin either your oldest pins and go work up from there, or you can do the random ones. So to randomly pick a pin to loop on that day. It's also got the aspect ratio and pin owner filter. This is good if you've got looping on a group board, so you could have it do only your pins or not your pins at all. And also your website and domain filter. So you can see on this board, I've actually got it, it only loops my affiliate pins from Creative Market and Envato. Okay, so I can just save this here. And that is how you set up looping. Now you add boards like you would on the scheduler, same deal. And it will tell you at a glance here how many pins it's looping per day, your average repins, and how many people are following that board. Same on the scheduler. I think I forgot to mention that, but it gives you all that information there as well. Okay, so that is the gist of how you get started with BoardBooster. I did kind of go into a little bit more detail than I planned to, but it's a lot to take in, so I'm kind of glad I got to go over a lot of that stuff. So if you have any questions, feel free to email me or talk to me in my Facebook group or something. You can always join the Blog and Create Facebook group. So that is all for this video. I will see you in the next one, or talk to you in the next part of a course, or wherever I see you.